Marcus Thompson stood at the end of Maple Street, staring at the house he'd called home for 12 years. After 3 years of classified Navy SEAL operations, he was finally home. But something felt wrong. The fence was freshly painted, unfamiliar toys scattered the lawn, and flowers bloomed where Sarah had never gardened. The mission had been so classified that his death was staged. A helicopter crash in Afghanistan, no body recovered, a hero's funeral with an empty casket. For 3 years, the world believed Marcus Thompson was dead. It was the only way to protect his cover while gathering intelligence on terrorist networks. Now, watching his 7-year-old daughter Katie chase a boy he'd never seen, Marcus felt ice in his chest. Where was Jake, his 8-year-old son? He approached the front door and rang the bell. Through the window, he saw movement, a tall figure, and Sarah's voice laughing. The door opened. David stood there, his brother, David. David's expression shifted from annoyance to shock to fear. "Oh my God," David whispered. "You're supposed to be dead." Not "welcome home," just the cold statement that his existence was inconvenient. "David, what's going on? Where's Sarah?" Sarah appeared behind David, wearing a wedding ring Marcus had never seen. When she saw Marcus, she didn't run to embrace him. She stared in horror. "This isn't possible. You're dead. The Navy said you were dead." Marcus stepped forward. "Sarah, it's me. I was on a classified mission. I'm home now." Katie appeared, saw Marcus, and screamed, not joy, but terror. She ran to David, wrapping her arms around his legs. "Daddy, who is that man?" The word "daddy" felt like a knife. Marcus looked at David, then Sarah, understanding dawning. "What did you tell her?" Sarah's face hardened. "We told her the truth. Her father died serving his country, and David stepped up." "I am her father." "No," David said firmly. "You're dead, Marcus. We have the death certificate. You're some kind of impostor." "Where's Jake?" "Jake Thompson died with his father 3 years ago. Car accident, 2 months after we got word about Marcus." The lie was delivered smoothly, but Jake was his son, his boy who loved baseball. 15 minutes later, police arrived. The young officer was sympathetic to the widow who'd called about a disturbed veteran. "Sir, Marcus Thompson died in Afghanistan in 2021. You're trespassing." As police escorted him away, Marcus realized they'd erased his existence. That night, in a cheap motel, he called Linda Harrison, his old banker. "Linda, it's Marcus Thompson." Silence. "Marcus? But you're dead." "That's what everyone keeps telling me. Linda, I need your help."
Linda Harrison sat across from Marcus in Denny's, hands shaking as she stared at the man who was supposed to be buried in Arlington. She'd brought documents that would destroy everything. "It's really you," she whispered. "This is going to hurt." Linda opened her folder. The first document was his death certificate, dated March 15, 2021. Sarah came in with David 2 weeks after the Navy notification. "Your life insurance paid out $500,000. Military death benefits were $400,000. Your 401k was liquidated, $180,000. Over $1 million. More than enough motive to keep a dead man dead." But 3 months later, Sarah reported Jake's death too. She slid another death certificate across. "Jake Thompson, age 8, killed in a car accident June 3, 2021. "Marcus, you were already dead. How could you die again?" Marcus stared at the document. "They killed Jake twice." Jake had separate insurance, another $200,000, plus accidental death benefits. Total, over $1.5 million. Marcus leaned back, the betrayal sinking in. Where is Jake? Is he really dead? Linda pulled out her phone, showing a photo. I drove by their house yesterday. That's Jake playing in the yard. His son was alive, but living under a false identity. I need everything, every document related to my death and Jake's supposed death. Marcus, if they find out I helped you, they've stolen over $1 million and made my son believe I'm dead. I'm not letting that stand. That afternoon, Marcus began his investigation. He discovered something that made his blood run cold. Sarah and David's marriage application was filed March 10, 2021, 5 days before Marcus was officially killed. They'd planned to marry while Marcus was still alive. His phone rang. David's voice, threatening. You need to stop this, whoever you are. David, I know about the insurance money. I know Jake is alive. I know you applied to marry Sarah before I was even dead. Silence. Then, prove it. I'll prove it in court. Marcus called Patricia Brennan, a lawyer who'd handled his grandfather's estate. You're legally dead? Your wife married your brother, and they collected over $1 million in death benefits? Patricia said after hearing everything. That's the simplified version. Marcus, I have to prove a dead man is alive and challenge legally valid death certificates. Then we make it a federal case. The DNA test results came back perfect. Definitive proof of his identity and that Katie and Jake were his children. But then Marcus received a call that nearly stopped his heart. Sir, this sounds weird, but are you my real dad? Marcus's heart pounded. Jake? I found your number in Mom's old phone. She told me my dad died in the war, but David isn't my real dad, is he? I remember you teaching me baseball. Tears flowed freely. Jake, yes, I'm your real father. I'm alive. I knew it. David said I was imagining things, but I knew you were real. Don't tell anyone you called me. In a few days, there's going to be a court hearing. Are you coming home, Dad? I'm going to try, son. Federal agents visited Marcus that evening. The case had become a federal investigation. Thompson Logistics, David's defense contracting company, was already under investigation for $3.2 million in fraudulent billings. David had used his access to military schedules to predict when Marcus would be deployed, then timed the insurance fraud perfectly. We'd like you to testify. Your case could expose a network exploiting military families.
Friday morning arrived cold and gray. Marcus walked up courthouse steps in his dress uniform, ribbons gleaming. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Sarah sat with her lawyer, pale and drawn. David was defiant but nervous. And there, in the front row, was Jake. His son looked at him with recognition and hope. Judge Harrison called court to order. Marcus walked to the witness stand. Mr. Thompson, the prosecutor said, please tell the court if you recognize the defendants. Marcus looked directly at Sarah and David. The woman is Sarah Thompson, my wife of 12 years. The man is David Thompson, my brother who has stolen my identity and my family. Sarah's lawyer objected. My client has never seen this man before. He is an impostor. Judge Harrison looked at Sarah. Mrs. Thompson, do you recognize this man? Sarah stood, hands shaking. I have never seen this man before, Your Honor. My husband Marcus died serving his country. Marcus had one final card to play. Your Honor, Patricia said, we'd like to present Exhibit 47. She handed Marcus a voice recorder. This contains a recording of the defendants, made as part of the federal investigation. The prosecutor pressed play. David's voice filled the courtroom. The federal agents are getting close. If they connect the military contracts to Marcus's death benefits, we're finished. Sarah's voice followed. We should have killed him for real when we had the chance. The courtroom erupted. Sarah's face went white. David lunged toward the recording device before being restrained. Judge Harrison called for order. Based on the DNA evidence, military records, and recorded admissions, this court declares that the plaintiff is indeed Marcus Anthony Thompson. Both defendants are hereby charged with federal fraud, conspiracy, and conspiracy to commit murder. As marshals moved to arrest them, Katie stood and called out, "Daddy!" Marcus looked at his daughter. "Yes, sweetheart, I'm your daddy." Jake broke free and ran to Marcus, throwing his arms around him. "I knew you were alive." Katie hesitated, then slowly approached. "Are you really my daddy?" Marcus knelt down. "Do you remember the song I used to sing at bedtime, about the little star?" Katie's eyes widened with recognition. She whispered, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, lost so far from where you are." But then the moon showed her the way, and the little star was home to stay. Katie threw herself into his arms, and Marcus finally felt complete. As Sarah and David were led away in handcuffs, Sarah turned back one last time. "You should have stayed dead, Marcus." "But you forgot something important, Sarah. SEALs don't stay dead. We always come home." 6 months later, Marcus stood in their new kitchen watching his children make breakfast. Sarah was sentenced to 8 years for conspiracy and fraud. David received 12 years for the broader conspiracy involving 17 other military families and $50 million in fraudulent claims. The case led to the Marcus Thompson Military Family Protection Act, federal legislation protecting military families from similar exploitation. That morning, Admiral Stone visited to offer Marcus the Navy Cross for extraordinary heroism. "Admiral," Marcus said, watching Katie examine a flower, "my children already know their father is a hero, not because of any medal, but because I came back when everyone said I was dead." That evening, over hot chocolate, Jake asked, "Were you a hero when you were gone?" Marcus considered carefully. "I tried to do good work, but being a hero isn't about what you do far from home. It's about what you do for the people you love." "Like coming back for us?" Katie asked. "Exactly like that." Marcus Thompson had been declared dead, erased from existence, and betrayed by those closest to him. But he'd also been given the chance to rebuild his life with intention, focusing on what truly mattered. Some stories end with medals and recognition. Others end with children's laughter and the promise of another ordinary day as their father. For Marcus Thompson, that was the greatest victory of all.
Have you ever had to fight for something that was rightfully yours? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Hidden Hearth for more incredible stories of resilience and justice.